Jim Gordon here in the offices of the Richmond Sentinel. Time for another edition of Richmond Stories. Well, one of the things we wanted to do with these Richmond Stories is to showcase local citizens, fellow citizens here in this great city of Richmond, and their backstories and their history, which is part of this city's history. Case in point, where we are right now, we're at a very popular and long-standing restaurant pub called Pioneer Pub, and joining me right now is its owner, Ronnie Paterson. Ronnie, thank you for having us here today.
Yeah, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, you bet. We're going to do this quickly. A busy day here. You got people in here already, but this is really essentially what these stories are all about, because it's about talking to people that you may see. I've seen you many times. I've been in here many times. My folks live nearby. But you have a great history, and I did not know that you were a goaltender coming up through the system. And let's start with a goaltending experience in 1980, Lake Placid. And for me, that's about a bunch of kids from the States beating the Russians, which was massive. But you were on Team Canada, and you actually went toe-to-toe with the Americans throughout the previous year and leading up to the Olympics. Tell us about your career early on in the early days.
Well, yeah, it was anytime that you get a chance to represent your country, it's always very, very special. In fact, my esteemed career, if you will, just started down the road at Richmond Arena.
Yeah.
In fact, it was even before that. Richmond Arena was not built until I believe the early 60s. And so my brother and I actually started in Ladner in a little hangar. So it goes back that far. And then to fast forward and play junior here and then University of British Columbia, and then to join the Olympic team for a couple of years, championed by Father David Bauer, was a tremendous honor and a great life experience. We did an awful lot of traveling globally for a couple of years, and then to get to the Olympics and witness the U.S. team do something that no one has ever done, it was an absolute remarkable life experience.
Yeah, I think for people, youngsters, as I call them, that may be watching this, I try to equate it to, say, maybe, I don't know, the Vancouver Giants or somebody beating the Boston Bruins. It just was that monumental of a shift. And that back when it was really us against them. That's the former Soviet Union we're talking about. So,
well, very much a David Goliath situation, and nobody anticipated that. And as you know, everything had to be aligned for the U.S. team to achieve that ultimate goal. And I remember Ken Morrow was a defenseman, and I believe he scored real late in the game, like seconds remaining against the Swedes to tie it 2-2, and that point kind of got them into the medal round.
Right.
So they were so close to being eliminated, yet they end up winning a gold medal, which is a pretty remarkable experience.
Did a lot for hockey, I think, too, in the United States. You have that experience, and another thing that we should point out, this is back when it's young amateurs playing for Team Canada. It's not the NHL's best.
That's correct.
You were a young amateur in college at UBC.
Yeah, and subsequently that gave me the window of opportunity to play for the Olympic program. Pros were not allowed to participate. We had disbanded the Canadian participation in 1964, and Father Dave was the one that kind of brought it all together and allowed 1980 to participate. So what the focus was that the program targeted college athletes, as well as junior players, so across the country, and we came together, we practiced, and were housed in Calgary for about a year and a half prior to the Olympics, and so it was a great life experience. I mean, the memories that we cultivated were, pretty incredible, and we reflect on those. We have reunions nowadays, and we have lots of fond memories with that were cherished in those days.
And I think most people have this in their lives. For you, it's very black and white and definitive, but you come to that fork in the road where it's, do I go and continue my very impressive career overseas in Europe, or do I go back to UBC? And you chose that. I think, and it leads to Molson, where you spent 25 years.
Yes, very good. And yeah, it was a difficult decision at the time. I did have a small opportunity to go to Finland, but I also started my education, and I wanted to complete it. But in the interim, and I guess the caveat was that I was also working in promotions with Molson Breweries. So all in all, I wanted to finish my degree. I wanted to continue to experience the work environment with Molson, and so I chose to stay here and finish playing competitively at the end of my college career at UBC, which was a wonderful experience in itself. And so I stayed here, then ended up working full time. I wanted to be a teacher. I graduated in education, but then I had a chance to continue my employ with Molson Breweries, and I chose that. And 25 years later, it was a wonderful career.
You also, I think you said this to me before we went on camera. I mean, if I could sum up you and everything you do over the course of the last, say, 30, 40 years, it's hospitality and hockey. We're here in one of your locations. You also own the Landing Pub and Grill in Ladner.
Yes, yeah.
Some liquor stores, but you've really also kept your hand, I would say, philanthropically in the local hockey scene as well.
Yeah, the hockey has always been a big part of our life, our family life, and I continue to tell our kids that we wouldn't probably enjoy what we enjoy today without the game of hockey.
Yeah.
And then hospitality has always been very, very special, and so we continue to embrace both elements, hockey and hospitality, with our children. They're very, very actively involved in the family business, as is my wife. So it's really a rich experience for all of us as we embark on kind of growing the platform in our business, and it's been great.
There's one point that I found very touching is your tribute to your mom. If you're lucky in life, you get a good mom. I have one. You had one. Talk about the experience growing up, because your father passed away young. When you were young, but your mom was there.
Yeah, you know what? I think my mother taught. She had 3 young children. I was the youngest of 3, and my father did pass away at a very young age. And there was no GoFundMe activity,
of course,
so my mother illustrated some sacrifice and some conviction that allowed us to kind of grow and learn and develop those kind of life core values. And so she taught us hard work, and she taught us what to do to support her children. And she went out and she worked so hard to allow us the amenities in life that all the other kids were continuing to enjoy with both parents. So I look back and I'm very, very grateful, not only for my mother's sacrifice that she made, but also for her mother, which was obviously my grandmother, who also was an integral part of our upbringing.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. You obviously know your hockey. We were talking on camera about a lot of hockey stuff over the last years. You get one game to show some youngsters, and I'll say youngsters under the age of 16. Is there one game, say in the last 40 years, you would want them to see?
I do remember, and ironically, it would be against the U.S. team in Calgary, and the Calgary Corral at the time. It was before the Saddle Dome. It was jam-packed, and it was one game that I kind of reflect and remember. We won 3-2, so I remember the score, and it was just one of those magical moments where it was a great experience. It was a victory, and it was all part of the development. But I look back, and if there was one game that remains very, very special, it's probably that one.
And that was in the time leading up to
That's
1980
right,
Lake Placid. As a goaltender, I'm just one last question. I'm curious to get your thoughts on today's goaltending. I said to you before that when I look back at your era, my era, the goaltenders look like young kids because the equipment's not there, and you alluded to is the physicality of it, the constant round the clock working out in top shape. What do you think about the goaltenders today?
Yeah, you know what? It's really advanced. I mean, there's a lot more science. There's a lot more. It's so sophisticated, and the position has changed so much. I mean, many years ago when I played, you could be 5'6". Now you arguably need to be 6'5". And they're square to the puck. They go down. They do things that are totally different in style and approach to the position than we. I don't think away from the rink it's changed, challenge. I think it's still very emotionally challenging, but as far as I love watching them, and the position has come such a long ways in sophistication, and I continue to enjoy watching it.
It has been a great pleasure to sit down and get your story, Ronnie, here at Pioneers Pub. We should also mention that they're on number 3 Road here in Richmond. Also, you can check out the Landing Pub and Grill in Ladner. What a great story. This is the kind of stuff that we set out to cover with the Richmond Stories. Ronnie Paterson, come check him out. Are you here most of the time? Or?
Yes, we're here. Yeah, we're here a lot, and we have liquor stores throughout the community here in Richmond, and it's awesome that me and my family continue to get to service the community that I grew up in, and it's a really a special time for our family.
Another edition of Richmond Stories. Thanks for watching. This is sponsored, of course, by the Richmond Sentinel.